Hey guys, today I'm going to show you one of my most popular recipes for crispy oven-fried eggplant. Eggplant's one of those foods that a lot of people don't think they like. And they very well might not like eggplant, but I think a lot of people just haven't had eggplant cooked very well. Eggplant's one of those foods that if it's not cooked well, it's terrible. I'm going to show you a recipe for eggplant that even an eggplant hater just might like. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is cut our eggplant. We are going to cut off this little stem end, and we're going to cut off this, just the very end, little butt end here. Now we're going to cut our eggplant into pretty small slices, pretty thin slices, about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch thick. It doesn't really matter exactly how small you cut the eggplant within that range. Just make sure that all of the slices are pretty similar in size so that the eggplant cooks evenly. All right, our eggplant sliced into even slices, and now we're going to put it onto a cookie sheet. Okay, once our eggplant is on the sheet, we're going to sprinkle it really aggressively with salt. We're going to salt this eggplant on both sides, and then we're going to let it rest for about 20 minutes. And this is going to allow the salt to pull out a bunch of the moisture that's in the eggplant, start to soften the eggplant. It's also going to bring out some of those bitter flavors that eggplant tends to have, which I think is a reason why a lot of people don't tend to like eggplant. And then the salt is also going to season our eggplant. As it draws out moisture, some of the salt seeps in, and so you get a very nice seasoned eggplant. We're going to put a good pinch on every single slice and on both sides. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing to the second pan of eggplant. And then I'm going to let them hang out for 20 minutes, and then we'll be back for the next step. All right, it's been 20 minutes, and you'll see looking at the eggplant that there's a bit of moisture that's come up from the eggplant and is now sitting on top of the eggplant. And that's what the salt did. The salt went in and grabbed some of that moisture and pulled it out, and that will get some of that bitterness out. We're going to use a paper towel and blot our eggplant dry. So we're going to try to make it as dry as possible, and we're also going to get some of that excess salt off of the surface of our eggplant. Like I said, some of the salt has gone in and seasoned the eggplant, but we do want to get some of that excess salt out so our eggplant isn't salty. So I'm going to do that on both sides of the eggplant. All right, so all of our eggplant has been dried off, and I put all the eggplant slices onto one baking sheet down on this end of the counter, and I kept the second baking sheet down here. I wiped up some of the extra salt from this baking sheet. And actually, I just remember I want to spray this with some nonstick spray, so I'll be right back. All right, we have our baking sheet sprayed with nonstick spray. And now we're going to get to breading. This is a standard breading procedure, and that standard breading procedure is flour, eggs, and breadcrumbs. We're going to dip the eggplant in flour, which will help the egg stick on. And also, you just really need a light coating of flour. You don't want too much, so I like to shake it off a little bit. Then we're going to put it into the egg and dip it into the egg and get it all eggy. And then finally, we're going to put it into the breadcrumbs. Now, we want to make sure the breadcrumbs are really well coated, or the eggplant is really well coated in breadcrumbs. This is what's going to help us get the really crunchy consistency in the oven that we want. So that is it for breading. I'm going to go ahead and bread all of these eggplant, and then we'll get to the next step. All right, so I'm on my last slice of eggplant, and a couple things I wanted to let you know. First of all, we didn't add extra salt to any of the seasoning, again, because we seasoned those eggplants when we were drying that moisture out. However, you could add some non-salt herb seasoning or spice blends to your breadcrumbs, depending upon what direction you're going with the end recipe. So if you were going to use this for chicken parm, maybe you would add a little bit of Italian seasoning blend to this. And maybe if you're going into a Middle Eastern direction with some hummus and tahini and vegetables, you might want to go ahead and put some za'atar in here. So really this is a blank canvas, and it's really flexible for any kind of direction you want to go into. The other thing I want to let you know is that theoretically you're supposed to keep one hand dry and one hand wet so you don't end up with breadcrumb hands. I can never, ever remember to do that. I always lose my train of thought. So I do end up with a lot of breadcrumbs on my hands. No big deal. Just going to go wash them up in a second. I'm going to go wash my hands, and then I'm going to put these in a 450-degree oven in the middle rack. I'll end up doing 2 batches, but we'll just start with this one batch. So to wash my hands and get these in the oven. Okay, our eggplant has been baking for about 12 minutes, and I decided that I would take it out and take a look at the bottom, and the bottoms are starting to get crispy, so we're going to flip them now and put them back in the oven for about another 10 minutes. Okay, so they're starting to look super crispy, and this is the great thing with oven frying, is that you can put something on a super high temperature and get it still very nice and golden brown and crispy. So back in the oven. All right, so that was about another 10 minutes, and our eggplant looks super crispy on both sides. And I'm just gonna take a knife and put it in the thickest eggplant that I have. Even though I tried to get them all the same size, there's definitely a couple that are on the thicker side. And that is perfect. It is absolutely tender and cooked through, which is definitely what you want in eggplant. So there you have it, oven fried eggplant. Like I said, oven frying is one of my favorite things to do. I have a recipe on my blog for an oven fried pork schnitzel, which I'll link below, which is also very awesome and uses pretty much the same procedure we use with the standard breading procedure. For the eggplant, it's just pork, and it's awesome. So what would I do with this eggplant? Well, it's perfectly delicious just on its own. As a little snack, maybe dip it in some marinara sauce or hummus or ranch. You could use it just for eggplant parmesan. Layer it with some mozzarella cheese and some marinara sauce. Put it back in the oven just to melt those things together. Super delicious. I like having it in a pita with hummus and vegetables and like a tahini sauce. It's super delicious. And I recently made this recipe as a little canapé where I put a little pesto, a little marinara sauce, and a little mozzarella. Again, put that in the oven just for a couple minutes to melt the mozzarella, and it was awesome. So I think you could totally be creative with these eggplant as a blank canvas. I also have a recipe coming out today for buffalo eggplant sandwiches, which are super good. So you should give those a shot, and I will link that below as well. Let's maybe taste. It's going to be really hot, but I just wanted... Hopefully you can hear how crispy that is. It's super soft on the inside. It's well seasoned with that salt that we put on to draw out the moisture. Like I said, the salt gets actually absorbed as well into the eggplant. This is one of my favorite things to eat, and again, it's so flexible and adaptable. So I really hope you give this a shot. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Click subscribe and that little bell to be alerted when I drop a new video. Thank you so much for watching. Now go have some fun in the kitchen.